Hello everyone, how's it going? Now, people often ask me, what did you find the most difficult on your OCD recovery journey? Now, the answer to this, I would say most OCD sufferers would say the same thing. And that is the realness, the utter conviction that OCD comes in with. When it latches, you are going to be totally and utterly convinced that this one's real, that this one's different, that this one is the exception, that you're trapped, that you're broken, that there's no way out of this one. This one needs working out. And if you can't work this one out, that's it. You're screwed. You're done. You're finished. You're done for. And that's how it's going to feel. And why did I find that the most difficult? Well, a few things. The first thing was that I thought that I was the exception. So I thought, well, even if I get help for OCD, even if I read all the books on the reading list, even if I have regular one-to-one coaching calls, what's the point? Mine's different. Mine's real. I will never get over this. And that is how convincing it can feel. And this is why it's very important that you speak to somebody that understands OCD. Because a lot of people come into me on the first call and they are convinced there isn't OCD, right? Because that is the nature of the disorder. That's how it operates. If you knew that it was 100% OCD, it wouldn't cause anywhere near the disturbance that it currently causes, right? So you've got to understand that it's going to feel ultra real. And the reason we're having this conversation, the reason you're on the coaching call is because you are terrified of it being real. Okay, hence why we break it down, even if it were real from the eyes of unconditional acceptance, acceptance as an agreement and so on. So that's very, very important. So when I look back on my particular journey, I was utterly convinced, therefore I just couldn't see a way out. When that's to relevant false memory OCD, I couldn't see how I'd ever overcome that because I was convinced that this thing in the past happened and that there was no movement. That was it. This thing's done. I've done this thing in the past. That's it. You're done, I'm afraid. You can't move. You can't ever get out of that locked in internal vice of guilt and shame. That burden of guilt, everything that I did, that chronic fatigue, everything that I did was just weighed down by guilt. Everything that I experienced, any activity that I partook in was just filtered through the eyes of guilt. It was, well, how can you fully enjoy this, Sam? How can you fully be present? How can you ever be at peace again? How can you ever be satisfied? How can you ever find pleasure? How can you ever distract yourself? How can you ever find any kind of enjoyment? Because it was boom, boom, boom. Latched onto this thing in the past with relevant false memory OCD. And lots of time I have to advise people that, hey, we're going to have to break this down. We're going to have to change our views on this because we're not on this call to work it out. We can't get an answer. We can't get certainty on something, right? We have to break down, even if it were real, how we can learn to be at peace with that. And that's obviously a scary concept initially because we're terrified of the fears. But as we go through the coaching calls, we start seeing it in a less black and white manner and a more flexible way. So we're not super rigid. We're not super locked up. Think when you're locked up and tense and internalized in the guilt and shame and all the anxiety and all the panic, that is because you have complete and utter resistance to the worst case. That's because you're so rigid around all your fears. Like, oh my God, if that was the case, I couldn't live with that. Oh my God, I'd be the worst person ever. Oh my God, I couldn't live anymore if that had happened. Oh my God, I'd just be the worst scumbag in the world if I've done X, Y, and Z. And that's how it can feel, okay? You're going to come in feeling that it's absolutely real. That's just the nature of this disorder. So never underestimate the realness. Never underestimate that. OCD can mimic anything. OCD wins awards for the best scam artist of all time. It wins awards for the best con artist of all time. It can convince you of absolutely anything. And especially with relevant false memory OCD, what it will do, it will twist things in the past. So it will find something that's slightly uncertain, that you can't quite get certainty on, and maybe it's slightly bad or slightly risky, or you could slightly be at fault or responsible for something, OCD is going to target that, especially sort of ages of 12 to 13, 14, that kind of age. Maybe it's sexual development age. Maybe it was when you're sort of 17, 18, 19 and you're drinking and you're getting into fights or you're getting into some kind of conflict. It's going to go after that, because you might not be able to remember something because you were drunk for the first time. Maybe you can't quite remember a text you sent when you were drunk. Maybe you can't remember what you said to somebody or how you acted, how you behaved. It's going to really target that, and it's going to just hammer away. Boom, 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 until we go towards the unconditional acceptance angle, until we start to get under it, even if it were real, even if this thing did happen. Now, obviously, I totally understand how scary that concept is. If you're yet to reach out and you're thinking, oh my God, how could I ever break down if it were real? Well, look where you're getting so far. You working it out, you trying to solve something, you trying to get to the bottom of something in your head, replaying, analysing, scanning, constantly trying to solve, okay, but this kind of happened because of this. Constantly trying to out-logic it, it's not going to work. OCD has your number. OCD knows exactly what you're scared of. OCD gives you no breathing space. It gives you no wiggle room. It knows exactly what it is that your worst case scenario is, and it's firmly locked on. It's firmly gripped, and it won't release, it won't unlatch until we can start seeing our worst fear, our worst case scenario, or what you're terrified you may have done in a more rational way, in a more unconditional, accepting light. Otherwise, it stays fully locked on, which fuels the internal lockup. You know, the internal lockup where you're so anxious and my body felt weighed down. It genuinely felt weighed down. I was that fatigued with relevant false memory OCD. Anything that I did, felt like I could hardly function at times. Okay, it's hard to do it justice. It really is. You know, when I was stuck with this, walking seemed a task. It genuinely felt difficult to walk at times because I was so exhausted. I was so weighed down. It was like carrying a huge rock on my back as I was walking everywhere. Because everything that I did, it was boom, no, you've done this thing in the past. How dare you let yourself off the hook? And without actually suffering from relevant false memory OCD, it's very hard to fully grasp that and understand that. But that's how intense it feels. Hence why it's very important that you reach out, and it's very important that we look to get under this with rational thinking and stop the thoughts of thoughts. Stop just doing the exposures. Stop just, if I just get over it one day, like it's a common cold. No, you can't just rest up and get over it. Something like relevant false memory OCD or any kind of taboo or moral theme, you can't just get over, I'm afraid. It's going to take a big overhaul in how you view things. It's going to take lots of perspective changes. It's going to take some quite deep beliefs being shifted, especially the deep-seated ones, the deep-rooted ones, the ones that are very rigid and very black and white and very catastrophic and just very extreme. You know, I held some extreme beliefs around good and bad people. I held some very black and white, rigid beliefs around sort of punishable people, and like, if you do this, you should be punished eternally. You can't ever smile again. You can't ever be happy. You're undeserving. You're unforgivable. You never let off the hook. You know, when I had those kind of beliefs, OCD ran fucking riot. It caused chaos. It went fucking crazy, and it will do. This is why beliefs are crucial. Beliefs are so crucial on the recovery journey. I would not be recovered from OCD if I didn't change my beliefs. Not possible. If I didn't apply unconditional acceptance to my worst case scenario, I wouldn't be sat here talking to you being a coach, because I'd still be going round and round in my head. I'd still be trying to get certainty. I'd still be seeking reassurance. I'd still be confessing to my partner every 5 minutes. I'd still be complaining. I'd still be reenacting certain situations to make sure I didn't act out. You know, relevant false memory does all that. You know, so let's say, for example, it links to driving OCD, and you're absolutely convinced you may have hit somebody, and you're going round and round in your head whether you hit somebody. You know, driving in your car, go into that area where it was. Are you sure this? And sort of reenacting this and replaying it. OCD will do all of that. Okay, it will do all of that. Maybe you feel like you've offended somebody or harmed somebody, and you keep sending them messages over and over again. You keep talking to them saying, are you okay with me? You sure you're okay? You sure this didn't happen? You sure about this? You sure about that? Okay, constantly seeking reassurance, getting relief all the time, getting that answer, getting that certainty, and then it never, ever lasts. As soon as you feel like you get certainty, OCD moves the goalposts. it moves the goalposts. It moves it again and again and again and again. And then you end up chasing your tail. You're on a path to nowhere doing that. It's a real futile pursuit. You'll never ever be able to just work it out. Trust me, if you could, I'd have the easiest job in the world, right? You would come on a coaching call and all we would do is work things out. We'd go, right, okay, let's get to the bottom of this. Let's get to the bottom of this one, right? So tell me what happened again. So this happened and that happened, but you couldn't have done this because of that. Yeah, but that doesn't make sense because of this. What a disaster that would be. Utter disaster, because OCD would rub its hands going, oh, I've got them both here. I've got you here and I've got the coach. They make a mockery of us, right? Because it keeps nestling just at a reach where you can't quite grab certainty. You can't quite work it out. And trust me, you and I know how that feels, where it feels like you're just about to get there. This time I work it out, OCD finds something else. And even if you get the illusion of certainty, it switches, it twists it up, it manipulates something, and you feel, oh God, fuck. Hits you from a different angle, and back in circles you go again. Okay, it will do that. That is the nature of the disorder. This is why it's very important to break down, even if it were real. Acceptance isn't agreement. Unconditional acceptance is key. Our third book on our reading list, The Myth of Self-Esteem, explains that principle excellently well. If you are interested in one-to-one services, please email phil@ocdrecovery.com. My name is Sam. You have Rob, the founder of OCD Recovery, Nick, Mom, Gemma, and Elliot, all doing coaching calls. So please email phil@ocdrecovery.com to get in touch, and we will book you in as soon as we possibly can on our very busy schedules. Anyway, take care, guys, and we'll speak again. And no more trying to work it out. You will not be able to.